The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. You know that annoying little voice in your head? The one that starts shouting the second someone mentions a problem? Your friend is drowning in a project. Your coworker is completely stuck. Your sister is spiraling about her future and boom. Before they even finish talking, that voice is already screaming, "Oh, I know exactly what you need to do." Here's the thing. That voice actually means well. It genuinely wants to help, to swoop in like a superhero with the perfect solution. But in his fantastic book, The Coaching Habit, Michael Bungay Stanier gives this voice a rather fitting name, the advice monster. And here's the kicker. This monster, despite its heroic intentions, is quietly wrecking your effectiveness, burning you out, and actually making the people you're trying to help more helpless. Think about it. We've been trained since kindergarten to worship at the altar of answers. Remember racing to get your hand up first in class? Getting that promotion because you were the one who got things done? Yeah, we've been feeding our advice monster protein shakes for years. But here's the trap. When we lead with advice, we accidentally turn everyone around us into dependent children. We become the bottleneck for every tiny decision. And the really painful part? We end up completely disconnected from work that actually matters because we're too busy playing firefighter for everyone else's problems. So what if there was a different approach? What if you could talk less, ask more, and completely transform how you lead and connect with people? That's exactly what the coaching habit promises to deliver. And this isn't one of those 1,000-page management textbooks that cures insomnia. It's short, punchy, and ridiculously practical. Michael Bungay Stanier has worked with tens of thousands of overwhelmed managers at massive companies, and he's distilled coaching down to 7 essential questions. 7 beautifully simple questions you can start using literally today, yet powerful enough to unlock potential in others, give you back countless hours, and help you focus on work that genuinely moves the needle. Today, we're diving into those 7 questions. But even more importantly, we're exploring the mindset behind them. We're learning how to tame your advice monster, not by killing it, but by teaching yourself to stay curious just a tiny bit longer. By the time we're done, you won't just have a list of questions. You'll have a whole new operating system for conversations that will make you more effective, more inspiring, and honestly, more impactful in every corner of your life. So where do we start? Right off the bat, the author makes something crystal clear. This isn't about scheduling formal coaching sessions. Forget those awkward, planned meetings. The goal is to weave coaching into your everyday conversations. Something you can pull off in 10 minutes or less, whether it's in a scheduled chat or just bumping into someone by the coffee machine. But here's the reality. If we're going to rewire decades of advice-giving behavior into question-asking behavior, we need to understand how habits actually work. Spoiler alert, willpower is basically useless. What you need is a formula. The book introduces this wonderfully elegant tool called the New Habit Formula. It has 3 simple parts. When this happens, instead of "I will," first, nail down the trigger. When this happens. This is the specific moment that launches your old pattern. Like, when someone on my team shows up at my desk looking stressed. Second, name the old habit you're trying to break. Instead of, this is where you call out your advice monster's signature move. Instead of immediately asking, "What's wrong?" and launching into solution mode. And third, define your new behavior. Here's the critical part. It needs to be a micro-habit, something that takes less than 60 seconds. I will take a deep breath and ask one of the 7 questions. This formula is your engine for change. It's what transforms good intentions into actual, lasting behavioral shifts. So now that we've got our engine, let's explore the 7 questions that make up the heart of the coaching habit. The first challenge in any conversation is simply getting it started properly. We waste so much time on meaningless small talk, or we jump straight to an agenda that might not even be the most important thing right now. We need a way to cut through all that noise fast. Enter the first question, the Kickstart question. What's on your mind? Sounds almost too simple, right? But this question is beautifully engineered. It's open-ended, inviting the other person to share what's actually important to them, not what you've decided is important. It signals trust and gives them control of the agenda. But it's also focused. It's not the generic, "How are you?" that triggers the autopilot, "Fine." It's an invitation to talk about what's exciting them, stressing them, or keeping them awake at 3 a.m. It basically says, let's get real and talk about what actually matters. Once they answer, you can sharpen the focus even more using something called the 3P model. Most challenges fall into 3 categories: projects, people, and patterns. Projects are the what, the actual work, the tasks, the deliverables. People are the relationships, teammates, bosses, clients, that annoying guy from accounting. And patterns are behaviors, ways of working that might be sabotaging them, or you. So after asking what's on your mind, and hearing about some stressful deadline, you might say, okay, it sounds like we could go a few directions here. We could dig into the project itself, talk about any people dynamics involved, or explore if there's a pattern of behavior showing up that you'd like to shift. Which would be most helpful? This combination of the Kickstart question and the 3P model ensures you start strong, focused on what's real and what genuinely matters. All right, so you've opened the door. They've shared what's going on. And now, your advice monster is basically vibrating with excitement. It heard the problem, it's got the perfect solution, and it's ready to pounce. This is the critical moment. How do you hold back that monster? How do you stay curious just a little longer? You unleash what the author calls the best coaching question in the world. Just 3 simple words. The auto's question, and what else? This question is pure genius. It seems almost innocent, but it accomplishes 3 massive things simultaneously. First, it generates more options. That first answer people give, it's rarely their only answer, and almost never their best one. Our brains default to the most obvious or safest response first. By asking, and what else, you push them to dig deeper and uncover better possibilities. More options equal better decisions, and better decisions equal greater success. Second, it literally tames your advice monster. This might be its most critical function. Every single time you ask, and what else, you're actively choosing curiosity over cleverness. You're physically restraining yourself from hijacking the conversation with your brilliant ideas. It's a self-management tool disguised as a simple question. And third, it buys you precious time. Let's be honest. Sometimes you have no idea what's really going on either. Asking, and what else, gives you breathing room to listen, process, and figure out where this conversation actually needs to go. The author suggests asking it at least 3 times. The first time gets you the obvious answer. The second time makes them pause and think harder. The third time, that's usually where the gold is hiding. So you've kicked things off with what's on your mind and generated more options with and what else. But here's the thing. You're often still dancing around the surface of the problem, not getting to its root. Someone complains about email overwhelm, but the real issue is they're terrified to delegate. They talk about a nightmare client, but the real challenge is they can't set boundaries to save their life. If you jump in to solve that first surface problem, you're solving the wrong problem. This is where we need to pump the brakes and discover what's actually happening. This is where the focus question comes in. What's the real challenge here for you? This question is a laser beam. Let's unpack why it works so brilliantly. What's the challenge is decent, but pretty vague. What's the real challenge is better. That word real implies there are multiple challenges swirling around, and it forces them to prioritize and identify the one that truly matters. But the magic lives in those last two words. For you? That tiny phrase, for you, transforms this from generic problem-solving into powerful coaching. It yanks the focus away from external drama and zeroes in on the person sitting in front of you. It makes it personal. It stops them from complaining about what everyone else should do differently and forces them to wrestle with their own role in the situation. It shifts the conversation from performance, just putting out fires, to development, helping the person actually grow. When someone is venting about a difficult team member, asking, "What's the real challenge here for you?" transforms gossip into a productive moment of self-reflection about how they can manage that relationship differently. This question cuts through fog like nothing else. It stops the endless multiplication of problems, prevents you from coaching the ghost, the person who isn't even in the room, and grounds abstract complaints in personal responsibility. Now we're getting somewhere real. We know the actual challenge, but to genuinely help someone, we need to understand what they really want, not what they think they should want, or what they assume you want to hear, what they truly deeply want. This is often the hardest question for people to answer, both for them and for us. It requires vulnerability and clarity. It's the foundation question: what do you want? The author quotes Peter Block, who says an adult-to-adult relationship is one where you can ask for what you want, fully knowing the answer might be no. This question is the absolute heart of that mature, responsible dynamic. It's hard to answer because we often genuinely don't know what we want, or we know but we're terrified to ask for it, or we ask but in such a roundabout, passive-aggressive way that nobody understands us anyway. This question slices through all of that. It demands clarity, and when you ask it, you're tapping into some fascinating brain science. Our brains constantly scan our environment, about 5 times every second, asking one fundamental question: am I safe here, or am I in danger? The author introduces a simple model called the Terra quotient. Terra stands for tribe, expectation, rank, and autonomy. These 4 drivers determine whether our brains perceive a situation as rewarding or threatening. Tribe: do I feel like you're on my side? Expectation: do I know what's about to happen? Rank: do I feel respected here? Autonomy: do I feel like I have some control? When you ask what do you want, you're dramatically boosting the Terra quotient. You're signaling you're on their team tribe. You're elevating their importance by genuinely asking for their input rank. And most critically, you're giving them control and choice autonomy. You're creating a brain-friendly environment where they feel safe enough to think clearly and creatively. So you've asked what they want, they've told you, and now the rescuer in you, that close cousin of the advice monster, is gearing up for action. It hears what they want, and it wants to jump in and do it for them. You think you're being helpful, but what you're actually doing is falling into something called the Cartman drama triangle. This powerful psychological model says that in dysfunctional interactions, we play one of 3 roles: the victim, poor me, nothing's my fault; the persecutor, everything's your fault; and the rescuer, don't worry, let me save you. Most managers, and honestly most helpful people in general, default straight to rescuer mode. We leap in to solve problems, take over tasks, and save the day. The problem? Rescuers create victims. By constantly saving people, we teach them they're incapable of saving themselves. It creates a vicious cycle of dependency where everyone loses. So how do you escape the drama triangle? How do you stop automatically playing rescuer? You ask the lazy question, how can I help? This question is sneaky brilliant. On the surface, it sounds supportive and caring, but what it's really doing is tossing the ball right back into their court. First, it forces them to make a clear, direct request. They might not even know what they need until you ask. This question helps them figure it out. Second, and more importantly, it stops you from assuming you know what's best. It prevents you from wasting hours doing things they don't actually need or even want. It's lazy in the absolute best sense of the word. You work less hard and become more useful simultaneously. A more direct version is simply, "What do you want from me?" It can sound a bit blunt, but sometimes that level of directness is exactly what's needed to cut through confusion. Here's something crucial to remember. When they answer, you don't have to say yes. Your options remain, yes, no, I can't do that, but here's what I can do, or let me think about it and get back to you. The point isn't to lock you into anything. It's to force clarity before you commit to action. We're almost through the toolkit. We've learned how to start conversations, go deeper, find focus, understand motivation, and empower people without taking over their problems. But there's one final challenge plaguing all of us. We're absolutely drowning in work. We say yes to everything, desperately hoping it will all magically fit together. But a yes is completely meaningless without a corresponding no. This is where strategy enters the picture. And the author offers a beautiful, elegantly simple definition from Michael Porter. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. This leads us to the strategic question. If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? This question is the antidote to overwhelm. It forces you and your team to confront the uncomfortable reality of trade-offs. When you commit to a shiny new project, what existing project are you now deprioritizing or abandoning? When you say yes to this meeting, what other work are you saying no to during that hour? But it goes even deeper than that. To make a yes truly happen, what do you need to stop doing? What habits need to die? What expectations do you need to renegotiate with other people? What limiting beliefs about yourself do you need to release? This question creates genuine focus. It transforms a vague, hopeful yes into a realistic, committed plan of action. It helps you and your team stop being frantically busy and start being genuinely impactful. And that brings us to the final question. You've had an amazing conversation. Insights have emerged. A path forward has crystallized. The temptation now is to wrap up quickly and sprint off to your next thing. But if you do that, you're missing the most important moment of all. The moment where actual learning happens. Here's the truth. People don't learn when you tell them something. They don't even learn when they do something. They learn when they have a chance to reflect on what happened. To create that reflection moment, you use the learning question, what was most useful for you? This question is the perfect way to end any conversation. Let's explore why it's so effective. First, it assumes the conversation was useful. It frames the entire interaction as valuable right from the start. Second, it makes the learning deeply personal. By asking what was useful for you, you're helping them generate their own insights, which makes the learning stick like superglue. An insight they discover themselves is infinitely more powerful than one you hand them on a silver platter. Third, it gives you fantastic feedback. Their answer tells you what's working, so you know what to do more of next time. It reassures you that even though you weren't dispensing advice, you were being incredibly helpful. This question completes what the author calls the coaching bookends. You start fast and focused with what's on your mind, and you finish strong and memorable with what was most useful for you. If you mastered nothing but those two bookend questions, you'd already be miles ahead of most people. And there you have it, 7 simple, powerful questions. What's on your mind? And what else? What's the real challenge here for you? What do you want? How can I help? If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? And what was most useful for you? The real secret, the author concludes, isn't just memorizing these questions. It's about building a new habit, the habit of staying curious. The shift that will serve you most powerfully is simply this: a little less advice and a little more curiosity. As we reflect on the coaching habit, what jumps out is its radical commitment to simplicity. In a world absolutely drowning in complex leadership frameworks and week-long certification programs, Michael Bungay Stanier has done something genuinely remarkable. He's taken the intimidating art of coaching and made it accessible, practical, and actually doable for busy, overwhelmed humans. The real genius of this book is that it's not actually about becoming a coach. It's about changing the default setting of your conversations. It recognizes that our deepest instinct is to be the problem solver, the hero riding in with answers. And it gently but firmly shows us that true leadership, genuine helpfulness, lies not in having the best answers, but in asking the best questions. Why does this matter so much right now? Because we're living through an era of insane change and complexity. The old top-down leadership model, where the manager knows everything and directs all the action, is completely broken. No single person can possibly have all the answers anymore. The most valuable skill a leader, parent, or friend can have is the ability to unlock the intelligence, creativity, and potential already living inside the people around them. These 7 questions are the keys to doing exactly that. Each question is engineered to shift the dynamic of a conversation. It moves focus from you to them. It moves ownership from you to them. It moves the responsibility for generating solutions from you to them. And in doing so, it builds the very things that create engaged, motivated, successful people: autonomy, mastery, and a sense of purpose. So how can you start putting this into practice right now? Here are 3 simple actions you can take today. First, just pick one question and one person. Don't try to juggle all 7 at once. Maybe start with the AWE question, and what else? The next time someone comes to you with a problem and you feel that advice monster stirring, just bite your tongue and ask, "That's interesting. And what else could you try?" See what unfolds. Second, just notice your advice monster. For the next 24 hours, pay attention to how quickly you leap to giving advice. What triggers it? Which people bring it out most strongly? You don't need to change anything yet. Just observing it will begin loosening its grip. Third, build your very first new habit formula. Take 60 seconds right now and write it down. When my colleague complains about workload, instead of suggesting what she should do, I will ask, "What's the real challenge here for you?" Stick it somewhere visible. This small act of writing makes your intention real. The ultimate lesson of the coaching habit is that curiosity is both generous and powerful. When you ask a genuine question, you're sending a profound message. You're saying, "I trust you, I believe in you, you have the answers within you." It's a message that builds confidence, sparks insight, and empowers people to take control of their own journey. It's perhaps one of the greatest gifts you can give another human being. That was a summary of The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. We've hit the highlights today, but let's be honest. A summary can only ever be a map. The real magic happens when you explore the territory yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase in the book connects with something deep inside you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book deserves your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked even a tiny bit of curiosity in you, I strongly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new skill. It's an experience that can genuinely transform how you interact with everyone in your life. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.